What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and this is going to be my breakdown of the Halloween banner. So we have got Halloween Askr, which we did see on the silhouette, and he's a colorless infantry beast just like his original version. He's not really a colorless mage like Duo Askr, but yeah, he's going to be taking care of Legendary Camilla, and he has got Horn of Harvest, which does give him -1 special cooldown, so Sturdy Beast becomes a 2 cooldown special, and then he has got Bulwark built in his weapon, so this does help against high mobility units like Emblem Heroes and also Brave Felix, and both of them can get the extraction, and at least with this, you're going to be preventing your backline units from getting sniped initially, so it is really good. And then he has got Breath of Life 4 built in his weapon, which is really amazing because he is going to be having his preferred Slotsy skill, so obviously he could not run this as an inhittable Slotsy skill, so having this built in the weapon is amazing for the support, and it also helps him quite a lot against the AOE specials. And like I said, he's going to be able to deal with something like Emblem Heroes because of his extremely high defense, the Breath of Life, and then the AOE damage reduction that he has got. And keep in mind that even if he's alone, he's still going to be able to get the Breath of Life healing, which is going to be nice, but most of the time he is going to be near his allies. And then he inflicts attack and defense debuff on the foe, and this can go up to max 15. And he has got another layer of deep wounds reduction by 50%. So this is going to be stacking with the Breath of Life 4 built in his weapon, and he's going to be having 75% deep wounds reduction, so he's going to be healing up a lot of the HP even against Fatal Smoke 4, which again is going to be checking Emblem Heroes, who comes with that skill. And then he has got true damage based on 20% of his defense, even in the AOE special, so he's able to AOE nuke. And he also gets that flat damage reduction based on 20% of his defense, including the AOE specials. So he is pretty resilient to the melee AOE specials, which does make him a pretty good frontliner in Ether raids and also in summoner duels. And then he has got a ton of support, so he adds value to your team. And then he has got the standard infantry beast transformation, so he's going to be getting the full tempo effect out of it. So if you're going to be using him in your Gale Force team in Ether Raid's offense, then this does help you trigger Gale Force a lot easily against the guard effects. And then he brings Sturdy Beast as a new inhittable beast special for all of the beast units, which is going to be amazing for the unpierceable damage reduction. So basically this is going to be boosting up damage based on your defense. It is essentially bonfire. And then depending on if the conditions are met, you're going to be reducing the damage from foe's next attack by 40% if your or the opponent's special is ready or triggered in the combat, and if the unit is transformed, or if they've got more defense than foe's defense -4. So this is going to be once per combat, and this is a really good special which a lot of beast units are going to be able to utilize, especially the ones without a -1 special cooldown weapon, because this is going to be working with Lagoose Friend for them. So it is essentially a beast version of Dragon's Roar that they've got, and if you want an offensive version, then Fierce Beast is going to be there for the damage reduction piercing. So I'm really happy that they're making more beast exclusive specials. They really needed that. And then he has got D bonus doubler for the Omni tanking, which he's going to be able to do. He has got really high resistance as well, and he has a lot of flat damage reduction, so he can easily Omni tank. And then he has got Reopening, which we did see on Brave Alphonse, and this is pretty much a worse version of Lagoose Friend. So on a budget, this could work out to give you the flat damage reduction, but if you really want to invest in him, then Lagoose Friend is of course going to be the best option. You'd have to change his special though, because Lagoose Friend does need a 3 cooldown or higher special when it comes to using an offensive special with it. So that's something you'll have to keep in mind. And then he has got Connected World as an upgrade to Open Domain. So if he can transform, then the transformation effects pretty much gain the Open Domain condition, which needs your allies in 2 spaces from a different title than Askr, so they should be non-heroes units. And this is something that we haven't seen before, so he instantly transforms in Ether Raid's defense. So this is going to be happening at the same time as you start your player phase. So it's kind of like Divine Vein Ice Terrain, where it is going to be getting immediately applied. So this allows him to get the beast transformation effects, which not any kind of other beast unit is able to get. And it's sort of turn and it's sort of enemy phase, except for the enemy phase in summoner duels, because there's no player phase enemy phase there. If he's within 3 spaces of any allies from different title than him, then he can grant himself and the allies in 3 spaces the +6 attack and defense buff, the Resonance Blades and Resonance Shields effect, and also the 50% damage reduction piercing status, which we have seen before on Brave Crom. And this also helps Askr because he doesn't really have the damage reduction piercing in his kit or in his sturdy beast. But obviously if you run Lagu's Friend, then this is not going to be a big issue, but it does help the other allies get this kind of effect. And he also gives himself and the allies in 3 spaces the Time Pulse 4 effect. So he can loop his specials, which is really good, and also he can make the allies loop their special. So again, not a big deal for Gale Force teams, but for anything else, like in Summoner duels or for Ether Raid's defense, this is an insanely good support. So not only he gives you that pulse effect, but he also allows you to loop it. So this is an updated Time Pulse 4 effect, and if he's within 3 spaces of an ally, then he's able to get +5 to his attack, defense, and resistance in combat, and he also gets 40% damage reduction in the combat. Now this is the pierceable damage reduction, so it's not really all that valuable, but I guess it's still good to have along with the flat damage reduction that he has got with his weapon, and he can also get with Lagu's Friend. So Halloween Askr is an amazing unit as an Omni tank, as a frontliner, and also as a support unit, giving the Time Pulse 4 support to your allies and also having Breath of Life built in his weapon is extremely stacked. So he's going to be seen a lot in the competitive game modes, and like I said, you want to give him Lagu's Friend as that is going to be his best lobby skill. So you'll have to change his special, but that's fine. And he also brings some good fodder if you're a beast enthusiast and if you want to have the unpierceable damage reduction. So easily survives all of the pre-combat damage of Camilla, and it's not a big deal to him whatsoever. So it is going to be helping him against the AOE specials as well, which means Emblem Secret. And then we have got Halloween Lethe as the 4-star focus unit. So I got a bit confused because they put her in the 2nd slot, and usually we have demotes in the 3rd slot. So she's a Blue Beast Cavalier, at least she is a different color. We do see her stats, so she is extremely fast at base 47, and she's got Hungry Cat Fang as her preferred weapon. So this has got -1 special cooldown, and it also has Time Pulse 4 built into the weapon. So having that as a Cavalier is really good, not only for stuff like Gale Force, but even just for other damaging specials. And she could definitely try and run Sturdy Beast with Emblem Marth because she doesn't really need to run Fierce Beast, as she has got the full damage reduction piercing, and then she can get extra stats in the combat up to 14, and she also has the full null follow-up built into this weapon, which is expected on Lethe. And then she's got the Null Guard effect, which does allow you to trigger your specials easily, and then you've got the Time Pulse 4 built in the weapon, and she completely pierces any kind of damage reduction with her special triggers. So triggering the offensive specials is going to be very important for her, and that's why I was saying that we could run Sturdy Beast with Emblem Marth, so that it could be a 1 cooldown special that you could loop. But if you don't have it, then you could run something like Moonbow or even Luna with Emblem Marth, and she doesn't really have any kind of Canto built in her weapon, so Emblem Sigurd is going to be a really good ring on her. And then she has the Beast Transformation effect for the Cavalry Beast, so she gets a bit more damage reduction, which is pierceable, and also gets the attack and defense debuff. So that does help her a bit, not bad for a 4-star focus, and if you're a big Lethe fan. And then she's got attack speed Clash 3 and speed defense Neotrace 3, so decent bridge fodder. And that is pretty much going to be another version of Lethe, but this time she's got Time Pulse 4, so it definitely opens up a lot of the options. And unfortunately, she doesn't really have the true damage or the special charges in her weapon, so that could have been useful for Gale Force triggering, but still Time Pulse 4 does help you with that. But with Gale Force, you're not going to be able to pierce the damage reduction, so you want to run the offensive specials. And then we have got Halloween Na following the footsteps of her mother, but she's not a flying unit. She is a green dragon armor, and she is mainly going to be functioning as a near savior, but she could also function as a far savior. So she's got Stone of Delights as her preferred weapon, giving her -1 special cooldown, and then she's got the adaptive damage against the range units like any kind of other dragon, and then she has got the -1 special cooldown pulse to herself and any ally with less HP than her. So this is basically the infantry pulse type of effect that we've seen on Garrick, but it's a lot better because it's going to be applied to any kind of ally who's not even infantry. So this is a great thing to have on a save tank, and stuff like Ether Raid's defense and also in Summoner duels. The roll compression is going to be really strong. So a pulsing armor is extremely unique, and then if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she's going to be able to get plus 14 attack, defense, and resistance. It is treated as max 14 if a save skill triggers. So this is ideally going to be plus 14 as you would be placing her in the backlines, and then she gets true damage plus X in the combat and reduces damage from foes attacks by X. So this is flat damage reduction and true damage both, and this X is going to be dependent on her max HP minus foes HP at sort of the combat, and this can go up to max 16, so she's able to get 16 true damage including her AOE specials, which I don't think you're going to be running on an armor. And she also gets 16 flat damage reduction, but I believe she doesn't really get the flat damage reduction against the AOE specials like Askr. But having the flat damage reduction is really good as you could stack it up with Shield Fighter, Pavis, Escutcheon and stuff like that. And then she's got Scowl built in this weapon, so she doesn't really have to run that in her slot A, and that does help her quite a bit even in near saving, and if you're going to be far saving, then that really helps. And if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she's able to get the -1 cooldown spiral effect to herself, which is the half effect of Time Pulse 4. So she's able to kind of loop it in a way, and then she's got the pulse effect at start of the turn. So it's not completely Time Pulse 4, but only half of it, the spiral part of it. And then she gives out the pulse support to her allies, which I really like. And she is actually going to be a trainee BST armor at 212 BST, so that's really high. And if you're plus and merging her, then she's going to be scoring incredibly well in Arena. She's also min-maxed with 49 base defense and 45 resistance with super boons. And she's got Armored Blaze, and you could always run Pavis with Shield Fighter. And she's got Earth Fire boost, which is needed for the extra HP for the pulse effect and also for her true damage and flat damage reduction. It also gives her the guard effect, which doesn't really mean much nowadays, but still good to have. And then she's got a new version of Dragon's Ire in Dragon Scale. So this is going to be inflicting max -11 debuff to the foe's attack, defense, and resistance. And the way it's calculated is basically depending on the greater difference between your defense or resistance stats added with 4. So this is good to have a lot of the debuffs, and then you also get the guaranteed follow-up attack, and you also get special cooldown -1 jump before the enemy's first attack. So it's the defensive special jumping that we have seen before on Lagu's friend, and then it has got the 50% damage reduction piercing. So this is a pretty nice skill for the flying and cavalry dragons because they don't have a lot of the options, but for armor and for infantry dragons, they're just better skills. Like you could run Lagu's friend on infantry dragons, get the full damage reduction piercing and the flat damage reduction. And on armor dragons like Na, you can always run Shield Fighter. But if you don't have access to the Shield Fighter fodder, then this is a pretty nice replacement, giving you the guaranteed follow-up attack and also the special jumping, and of course the damage reduction piercing, which is needed nowadays. So it's a nice skill, but definitely not the best. And then we have got the tier 4 version of the near save skill. Now keep in mind that this is still going to be scoring as a 300 SP slotsy skill, so it doesn't really give you the improved scoring for Arena. So this is the tier 4 version of the near save skill, and what has changed with this is basically you're going to be able to trigger the damage reduction of Dragon's Roar, Armored Blaze, Armored Beacon, Armored Flow twice in a single round of combat. So all of those specials were offensive in nature, so they would only give you the unpierceable damage reduction once per combat. But now you could have it twice per combat if you run this kind of save skill. And it also gives you 7 HP healing in the combat, so it's a pretty nice thing for the survivability by getting the unpierceable damage reduction twice. But I still think that if you're trying to have more survivability, then nothing really beats Shield Fighter with Pavis and Aegis. So the tier 4 version of these save skills is kind of underwhelming. I was thinking that maybe it would have Breath of Life 4 built in, but I'm glad that it's not that insane and it's just tame. So it's going to be a bit of a nice boost, but you don't really need this all that much on a lot of the save units, but it does help if you're running those kinds of specials. Now keep in mind that this is not going to be giving you more damage reduction on stuff like Pavis and Aegis, and it only applies to the specials which I mentioned before, like Dragon's Roar, Armored Beacon, Armored Flow, and Armored Blaze. So it's a good option for many of the save units, but again, nothing really that you have to go out of your way to get. And here we see Halloween Na facing Brave Felix. Now, they always have these kinds of unrealistic showcases because if this Brave Felix had null follow-up, she wouldn't be able to kill him. And AoE Brave Felix would also do a number to her, I imagine. So Na is a pretty nice near savior, but green color can hurt her a bit, especially because we have got Brave Felix, but still she's one of the better near saviors. But I think I like Ascended Amelia and Gatry a bit more as the near saviors with Shield Fighter, because they've got the neutral color advantage against Emblem Secret, and they have color advantage against Brave Felix. So being a green near savior is not the best, and if you really want to get a green near savior, then keep in mind that in November we're gonna be getting the Holoforms run for Brave Edelgard, where you're gonna be able to get Shield Fighter. Now obviously, Halloween Na is way better than Brave Edelgard when it comes to near saving, but I'm just saying, if you really are looking for a green near savior, then that could be an option. But otherwise, I think Ascended Amelia and Gatry are really good. And then we have got the star of the banner and Halloween Nagi with Idun. So not appearing I expected, and she is a red armor dragon, and she's gonna be the far savior, and she's gonna be eating up the AoE special from Fallen Ursula, and she's got opposing stones as her preferred weapon, so this gives her -1 special cooldown, and she also has the dragon effective damage, which is not really gonna be mattering for far saving whatsoever. And she also has Sylvalan Shield built in her weapon, so that is kind of reminiscent of Brave Hector, and this definitely helps her quite a bit as a far savior, and especially against something like Attuned Micaiah. And then she's got distant counter built in this weapon as well, so you don't really need to run any kind of distant counter skill or Sacred Seal. And then she has got the Nagi patented 80% damage reduction against the AoE specials. Back in those days, this was really helpful against Ophelia, but nowadays it is going to be really helpful against the modern AoE specials and even against the AoE melee units like Brave Felix and Emblem Secret. And then she has got the color advantage against the colorless units, so she has got the Raven Tome effect built in her breath. Again, this is something that we saw on Nagi. And she also has Time Pulse 4 built in her weapon. So pulsing and Time Pulse 4 seems to be the theme of the banner, and most units get some kind of pulsing effect in their weapon from this banner. So this is going to be good as a far savior with Dragon's Roar. She also gets the penalty on foes' attack, defense, and resistance up to -14. And just like Na, if she triggers a save skill, then it is going to be treated as max 14. So again, as a far savior, pretty easy to do. And then she's got the flat damage reduction based on 20% of her resistance, which is really high at base 48 with a super boon. She doesn't really have the trainee BST though, like Na, so she's at 207 BST, and after the combat, she's able to heal up 7 HP, and just like any kind of modern unit, she also gives a bit of support to her allies, so she's able to give out the Drive +4 attack, defense, and resistance buff to the allies in 3 spaces, and the allies in those spaces also heal up 7 HP after their combat. So pretty nice post-combat healing, even though it's not something like Breath of Life 4. She does have Dragon's Roar as her special, which is going to be good for giving her the unpierceable damage reduction based on her resistance, and even if you run her as a near savior, this is the special that you're still going to be running, so you wouldn't really need to run something like Armored Blaze on her. And then she's got the Scout skill, the Dragon skill, which we did see before on Na, so the same skill here. And then she's got AR Twin Far Save. So just like Na's near save, this is also the tier 4 version, which allows you to trigger the effect of Dragon's Roar twice in a single round of combat, and you also get the 7 HP healing in the combat. And she already has the 7 HP post-combat healing in her weapon, so there are 2 kinds of healing that she has got, which is always good for the self-sustain, and she's not going to be as insane as a Duo Fiorm against the range units, I don't think. Duo Fiorm is near invincible against those, but Nagi is definitely going to be a lot more resilient towards the AoE specials, even if she's not given the Breath of Life 4 support, which, you know, something like Duo Fiorm is going to be needing. And if she falls off as a far savior, which happens sooner than we think, then she could always function as a near savior and be a bit more annoying against Felix with her 80% AOE damage reduction, so that is always something she could try and do. Just like I said with Na, if you want to prioritize your survivability, then Shield Fighter is still gonna be the best option, even though she comes with Dragon Roar. So you could just run Shield Fighter Aegis, which makes her extremely tanky. And if you want that kind of bulk, then I would highly recommend it for something like Summoner Duels. And here she's gonna be surviving Fallen Ursula and killing her, which is quite hard to do as a Far Savior, because Ursula packs a lot of punch with her AoE special. But even despite her 80% AoE damage reduction, Nagi is still barely able to survive. So that's worth noting, and definitely something that we'll have to test out. And because of being a harmonic unit, she does have a harmonic skill, which is going to be getting applied to the Arcanea and Binding Blade units. So in Summoner Duels, this is going to be useful for stalling and just using one of your actions. But if you're trying to use something like a Tune Sita, then this could help with that. There are not a lot of Arcanea and Binding Blade units that are going to be actively used in Summoner Duels, but obviously this is also helpful for resonant battles. But Nagi is a armor, so not the best mobility. And then she does get the +6 attack and resistance buff, the resonant shields effect, and also the dragon shield effect, which prevents any kind of effective damage against dragons. And she also gets Warp Bubble for 1 turn. So this is the first time that we have seen Warp Bubble outside of any kind of Mer, so maybe they're going to be giving this to more units. And then she cleanses any kind of penalty and also restores 30 HP. So this is kind of reminiscent of Halloween Duma. I used to use him quite a lot in Summoner Duels, and Nagi's is going to be a better Far Savior. And in Summoner Duels, getting the Warp Bubble effect for 1 turn, it's not the biggest deal, but I mean, if you're trying to stall, then it's a pretty nice effect to get, and you're also able to give this to other allies. So I could see this being helpful, and the 30 HP healing is definitely really helpful if something fails to kill her, and that's why like Shield Fighter Aegis is by far gonna be the best option for her, because if she survives, then she heals up the HP, which is gonna be quite annoying. So she's quite a good Far Savior. I'm a big fan of the AoE damage reduction that she's able to get, so she's gonna be using her harmonic skill. And we also have Halloween Yarne as the Tempest Trial reward, and this is his weapon, and he does have Beast Sense 3, which is pretty good as a demote skill, which we didn't really have before in the Grail pool. And he is going to be a red Beast Cavalier, so at least this is a different color, just like Lethe. And his weapon is obviously not as stacked as Lethe, no minus in special cooldown, but he's still able to get the pulse effect, which is helpful, and he has got the true damage. And he also brings Goat Dragons and Wily Fighter 3 as the Sacred Seals from his Tempest Trial. It's definitely useful on many of the armor units if you want to get the guaranteed follow-up attack, and you also ignore any kind of visible buffs of the enemies. So if you're not running Close Defense 4 or Distant Defense 4, then it could be an option, and it's not the worst Sacred Seal. So pretty good demote skill and also Sacred Seal that he brings. And we also have aided Dagr in the data of the game. So she's going to be a Sword Infantry unit this time, and we're going to be facing her in the Tempest Trial. And she's going to be probably released this month as the aided hero in the new Heroes banner. So that's something you can look forward to, and you're going to be able to spark her. I hope she gets a nice new preferred skill, and she's going to be bringing the Pathfinder shenanigans, which is always fun with units like Emblem Heroes and Brave Felix. So that is everything from the new Halloween banner, and obviously I'm going to be going in depth with my banner review and unit review, so you can look forward to that. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for the constant support, and you can click the link on the screen right now to check out my breakdown of Emblem Heroes banner, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Breath of Life 4 built into tier 4 far save skills. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.